Welcome, everybody, to Wager Talk Today. I am Lawrence Presman. He is Teddy Covers, and you're watching the Sports Center for Betting. Was that it, Teddy? Did I mess that up as well?
So we can't use Sports Center. We can use Sports Central. So I've always been using Sports Central for bettors or for gamblers, wherever you want to do it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, in Canada, we can't use Sports Central. So we're going to have to go with sports. We're going with the best old sports betting daily show on the planet. Booyah! Who's on that show, Teddy, and what will they be talking about?
Ralph Michaels is going to lead us off. The Pen. He's got an MLB chart talking about the first game of MLB series. He's also going to talk about the Braves and the Mets and MLB action tonight, as well as the Colorado Avalanche and the Seattle Kraken. Bryan Power is going to join us next. He's going to talk Rays and White Sox in MLB, Grizzlies and Lakers in the NBA. Bryan's got a rare 5% play going in MLB today, hitting 67% on all 5% plays since late December. When we talk about what bettors learned, I'll give some NFL draft thoughts. We have some BS questions to answer as well. Andy Lang going to talk Denver Nuggets team total, UFC, Quinlan versus Waters, and an NHL prop as well. If we get 100 likes, we got a presidential address to close out the show. But it is, no question, Lawrence, a loaded Friday edition of Wager Talk Today. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, well, we don't have much time for small talk, but it's me, Teddy. So I have no choice in the matter. Anyway, guys, yesterday, Teddy, I think I was very clear to all the listeners and viewers that they have to bet Tampa Bay against the Leafs. I was pretty clear about that, right? I mean, I spoke about it twice. I broke it down. I did tell everyone I wasn't betting it, and I was cheering against the very play I handed out. But I was clear, right?
I think so, but who knows what people, I mean, that's the thing. We always think we're being clear, and then you talk to someone like, no, that's not exactly what you said. So I think you were clear. To me, you were clear, but I don't know why.
Well, I had a shitty night yesterday, and I want to hang my hat on that one play, if you will. Ralph Michaels joining us, the Pen. How are you, Ralph?
Prez, you weren't on the show last Friday, but we did a pen giveaway for the first 50 people that emailed me. Guys, don't worry. I went over that number. If you emailed me on Friday, you got a pen. The problem was this: I needed to get in another shipment. So some of them aren't going out until today. So if you did email me, a pen will be in the mail by Monday. My apologies for the delay.
Ralph, it's amazing. In this day and age, there's a lineup for pens. There you go. So from depends to pens, Ralph Michaels joining us, everybody. Ralph, Carmine came on the air on Puck Time yesterday and told everybody that you've been helping him with his sales pitches. You helped me yesterday, dude. You're really good at this.
Well, you know what? Our job is to sell picks. Number one, when you're having success, it makes it easier. But you still need to explain to people the quality run you're on. So we talk about it all the time. Jumping on hot handicappers. And I'll say this. You go to WagerTalk.com and you see the last 3 days, last 7 days, and last 30 days. I'm not saying to not jump on a guy who's hot the last 30 days. But for me as a personal bettor, I look for that guy that's in that 4, 5, 6 game day range where they're on a streak and you're not trying to catch. It's like jumping on the Tampa Bay Rays. Once they're 12-0, do you want to jump on them? You got to get on them during the groove. So to me, I pay much more attention to the last 3 days than the last 7 days. Find the cappers I like. Read what their write-ups were by going to the last 20 plays. It's a great tool to learn. And find those guys that are making those awesome streaks at Wager Talk.
Yeah. Ralph Michaels says, don't ever be the last man in a gangbang. Ralph! You got a chart for us, brother. I'm just going to be regaled right now. I'm going to sit back, kick back, relax, and learn.
Well, we talk about this all the time. Teddy and I go back and forth. Is this something that you're going to base a bet on? No. I'm breaking down the first games of a series. But when you listen to coaches in the NFL, you hear it's a new week. We got to reset. And I think the same thing does hold true to MLB. From one series to the next, you do have a mini reset in that series when you have game one of the series. So I broke down the left-hand chart of the column, our teams in the first game of the series this year. To the right, you have their corresponding records and their ranks for what they were last year. So if we could see this chart, you look at the top and the bottom, there are two wow numbers. The Orioles this year, game one of a series, a perfect 9-0. An average line of minus 28, 128, a very fair price. Take a look at the bottom of the chart. The St. Louis Cardinals, in the first game of the series, their average line is minus 125 favorite, and they're 0-8 against the spread. Now, if you see the colors, the green for the good, the brown for the bad, when you see both teams colored, that means they're doing well this year and they did well last year with the greens. If you look at the Browns, those are teams that are at the bottom of the chart this year and were one of the top bottom 10 teams last year. So keep an eye on those teams that have been on the chart both years. Keep an eye on the team that have been on the bottom of the chart each of the last 2 years. And let's see if we can make some money, perhaps getting a play that might have been middle of the road to be a play, or to keep you off a loss by perhaps not using the St. Louis Cardinals in game one of a series tonight. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I just want to, I know this chart sometimes can be difficult for people to read if you're watching on your phone or on a smaller device. I'm just going to read, there's 5 teams you want to be on that have been good in game one of a series in each of the last 2 years. Ralph talked about Baltimore, the Chicago Cubs, the Toronto Blue Jays, New York Mets, and LA Dodgers, all profitable each of the last 2 years in game one of these series. And at the bottom, you've got the White Sox, the Giants, the Angels, and the aforementioned St. Louis Cardinals, all of whom have been notably bad each of the last 2 seasons in game one of a series. So interesting information from Ralph Michaels. I don't have a follow-up, Ralph. I just wanted to highlight those particular teams. Those are the ones that stand out to me on this chart. You want to talk a little MLB for today? Let's talk some Braves and Mets in baseball action for Friday. We're seeing Atlanta in the minus 125, minus 130, minus 135 range. There is a little bit of a dichotomy. The books that cater to recreational bettors have the Braves priced a little bit higher. The books that cater to the professional bettors have the Braves priced a little bit lower. Total sitting 7.5. Braves, Mets at Citi Field. What do we do with this one?
Teddy, I do also want to jump back and say, as I always do on Fridays, the charts that you see here on the show will be posted on Twitter at CalSportsLV, so you can do a deeper dive into that chart yourself. Well, Teddy, you had mentioned that the Mets are a team that this year, they're 6-2 first game of the series, plus 3.2 units. They did well last year, but I'm actually going to fade them. And I've had great success in the MLB this season using plays with hot pitchers versus pitchers that struggled. Now, Fried got injured in that opener against Washington. He pitched 3 2/3 innings, missed the start. But since he's been back, he has been absolutely dynamic. 11 innings in his last 2 starts. He's allowed 1 run, no home runs in that span. You look at Peterson. Peterson has really struggled. 3 of his last 4 starts, he's allowed 5 runs or more. He's allowed 18 in his worst 3 starts in those last 4s and allowed 5 home runs in those last 2 games. The Mets have only played 6 teams with a winning record this year. They've played a very weak schedule. They've gone 2-4 against those, and they're 3-5 as a small favorite or a dog this season. The Braves 10-2 on the road, an average win of 5.5 to 2.2. I did play this first 5. So the bullpens I have pretty even, but I'm going to take that out of the equation. Fried's going to get me to the fifth inning. I'm happy to fade Peterson in that role. So the first five line is a touch higher. It is minus 135, but that is an actual 4% client release. And again, a game that I do suggest jumping on board.
Ralph Michaels
So
joining us.
when it comes,
Oh, sorry, Teddy. Sorry. My bad, Teddy. My bad.
I'm over it.
Bad.
I'm over it. When it comes to Max Fried in these divisional matchups where the Aces face the same lineup 3, 4, 5, 6 times in a season. Fried faced the Mets 5 times last year. And the Mets had decent, not great numbers against him, but they had decent numbers against him. Do you look to be betting on the ace pitchers are you more likely to be on the ace pitcher when they're facing a divisional rival who they see a lot, or when they're facing a team that they might only face once or twice a year that's not familiar with the aces stuff at all?
Well, I'm going to say this, Teddy. There's no set rule that I have. I look at what the performances were, and then I look at this year's performances. You look at Max Fried last year against the Mets. I'm jumping back right now as you pulled it up. He played New York in the early August. He was a dog against Scherzer. He lost. That's nothing horrible. Then he was a dog to DeGrom. Again, you're in a class matchup. Then the third time he faced him in September, he was a dog against DeGrom again. And in those 4 starts, he gave up a total of 5 runs in 19 innings. So yes, he was 1-2, but again, you look at who he played, and he was a dog in all 3 roles. Much different scenario this year.
Ralph Michaels joining us. Ralph, what do you have to promote for the clients before we get into your NHL bet?
Not much. I have 3 plays today, including 2 4%. But guess what? Thank you for watching WagerTalk Today. You are getting both of my 4% plays for free. So keep an eye out. It's been a very nice run. I had been number 1 the last 7 days. I split yesterday, so I'm down to number 2 in profit the last 7 days. And I'm sure it'll continue. And I look to be in that top leaderboard for the last 30 days coming up in the next week.
Ralph Michaels, let's turn our attention to NHL tonight. We've got the Colorado Avalanche. Anywhere from minus 150 to minus 160 against the Seattle Kraken. They are down 3-2 in the series, and they are a plus 145 to win the series. Teddy, that is Ralph, Teddy and I later on in the show on our BS segment, we're going to be talking about a question that Frank Raposo sent in. When do you make future bets for a team to win versus making individual bets? This is a good one to discuss, Teddy. Minus 150 to win the game, plus 145 to win the series. Ralph, what do we do here?
Yeah, the plus 145 price to me, Prez, seems actually reasonable. So you're minus 155 now in Seattle. If you get game 7 back at home, you're going to be what?
Minus
260?
200. No,
Yeah.
210.
All right. So you look at those 2 odds and you put what a parlay would be. So that's where you want to see if there's value. You say 210, Prez. So you take a 150 favorite, a 210 favorite. You look at what the parlay odds are. And if you're getting better than the 145 and you like Colorado tonight, then it's a good play. So I don't have the math in front of me to figure it out, but that's exactly the process I go through when you're deciding what to do. What an interesting series. The Kraken have scored the opening goal in each of the first 5 games. I would have never thought that against Colorado. But Colorado admitted they came out flat. And they played shockingly. Losing that home game surprised me. But I am going to back them, even though you have to pay that 155 price. Listen, you got the defending Stanley Cup champs on the brink of elimination. Colorado has gone 9-2 on the road the last 2 years in the playoffs. 6-1 off a loss. They're averaging over 4 goals per game. Remember, you had Maker, who was suspended. He was not in that last game. McCann for Seattle, their leading scorer, did not play the last game, but he'll be out today. And I have to have a system for you guys. In the NHL playoffs, if you're off a loss as a home favorite of minus 130 or higher, and you're now an away favorite, like Colorado, Those teams have been a very impressive 48 and 15, 76.2%, and an ROI of plus over 24%. So the system fits, the situation fits. I like, coaches' quotes as well. Bednar wasn't. He didn't mix words. He said, "Listen,
No.
we play tight. This Seattle team is very loose. They're a second-year team. They have nothing to lose. The pressure was on us. We played with the pressure on our back, but we've been there, done that. We had a good post-game talk, and he's very confident moving forward." So I like when the coaches don't mix words, don't try to blow smoke up your ass, and just say, "Listen, we got outplayed. We weren't as motivated as we should be. They out-hustled us. We see a different Avalanche team tonight."
When you look at the parlay calculator odds for a minus 150 favorite with a minus 210 favorite, you end up with plus 145, which is exactly where the line is for the series price. And just so you know, that's the way every series price is set across sports. So be aware. There's a math and hard math behind the artistry. Ralph, you've already promoted. Best of luck with all your wagers today. Lawrence?
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
Ralph
And remember, the
Michaels,
first
man.
First
Ralph.
inning report daily on WagerTalk as well. Kyle at WagerTalk's doing an awesome write-up on the first inning report, so check out the news. Two things I'll mention. First inning reports. Colorado Rockies, 9-1 their last 10. And the White Sox and the Toronto Blue Jays, 5 straight no's for first inning runs. So we'll keep an eye on those teams as well. Thanks, guys. Talk to you next Friday.
A freaking wealth of knowledge. Ralph Michaels, everyone. You can find him at WagerTalk.com, an exclusive handicapper to our group. And another exclusive handicapper is Bryan Power. He'll be up very shortly. Teddy, brother, I know you texted me last night. The Leafs are cursed. They are. So let's move on from that conversation. What did you learn in the wonderful world of sports betting?
We got to mock the mocks today. Of course, the mock drafts, and I do this every year. Go through Kuiper and McShay and Prisco and all these guys. First, the good. And honestly, there was more good from the mock drafts this year than most years. They got the first 3 right. Usually they only get the first 1 right. They got that Arizona was trying to trade the 3rd pick. They got the 2nd quarterback taken right, the top 3. Then again, so did everybody else, except Stroud in the betting markets. He got beaten up by Rumor Central. And I'll give them credit. They got the vast majority of the players in the first round right. That doesn't always happen. There are lots of years you go back and look, and they get about 20 guys right out of the 32, 16, 18. This year, the first rounders were first rounders, and the only team making crazy reaches last night were the Lions. So it wasn't carnage for their picks, even with all the trades and movement. But they really didn't, as usual, get many players right in their spots. Not many at all, in fact. And when you looked at it, and I went through and looked at it, wrote everyone's pick down and looked at it, it was so obvious to me. The draft gurus are getting smoke screened by the teams. They kept on getting the right position, but the wrong player, which means the team is sending out smoke signals, or people are sending out smoke signals. Look this way, so their guy will still be there. With the Colts, Levis, oops, it's Richardson. With the Chargers, Flowers, oops, it's Quentin Johnson. With the Commanders, Deontay Banks, oops. It could have picked him, they picked Forbes instead, and on down the line. From a betting standpoint, many drafts are disasters for the sports book. The quote from Adam Pullen, I got this from a David Purdom article earlier this week. He's the assistant director of trading for Caesars, and he says, it's not if you're going to win or lose, it's how much you're going to lose from the sports book standpoint. The reports I got last night, books didn't do too bad in the first round. They didn't do too bad at all. Many of the wise guy plays went down in flames. There's some NFL draft thoughts, Lawrence. Back to you.
Yeah, Teddy, just on that note, I mean, listen, bottom line, let's ask ourselves, why were the pundits wrong on the draft? Why are they wrong all the time? And the answer is simple. Because if they knew what they were talking about, they would actually have jobs inside of the football teams to begin with. Ever listen to yeah, Teddy, that's how it works, dude. If you're such hot shit, you wouldn't be yapping your mouth off for $120,000 a year you would be actually in the damn Dallas Cowboys scouting room for way more money than that. It's like
So
taking. Yeah, go ahead. I can't wait for you to
your
start.
economics are way off. It's the guy in the Dallas Cowboys assistant to the assistant GM who's making $150 a year. Okay. You think Mel Kiper's making $120 a year? I say he's making $120 a month. I'll take the over.
No, I know. Mel
I'll take the over on all those guys.
Kiper,
McShay's not making $120. They make more money as pundits, and there are no consequences for being wrong. Probably a better deal to go that way.
Yeah. Either way, I'm sticking with my statement. They don't know what they're talking about to begin with. And Mel Kiper is still living off of a document he wrote when he was 8 years old. Teddy, on that note, one of our listeners writes, and I do want to address this. Can you imagine Prez and Kramer together on the same show? So I'm assuming he's talking about Jim Kramer. And I can't imagine that because I'd punch that guy out. I mean, dude, it's like, put your damn record up, Jim Kramer. You think you're such hot shit? Show us your portfolio, Jim Kramer. We do that, Teddy. And I don't want to be compared to these stockbroker big mouths that just sprout shit all day long. You can see our records online. You know what we're doing every day. Jim Kramer just blah, 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 blah. Anyway, and if it's Kramer from Seinfeld, well, I don't want to be Michael Richardson, but if I could be Kramer, well, that guy's a dude. Teddy covers. Let's bring Bryan Power in. Bryan, how are you, my friend? Anything to add on the show so far today?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like with drafts, when it comes to sports fans, I have some of the least interest in drafts, I think.
Yeah,
I felt
cares?
like everyone was texting me about this draft. I don't know, like people grade them 3 days after the fact. And the people who grade them, kind of to what Teddy was saying, they just grade them based on how they mocked them. Let's go back and revisit 3 years after the fact, or maybe 1 year or 2 years after the fact, to see how those drafts are. There's not enough immediacy for me, I guess, in a draft. But to all those who made money last night, tip of the cap. Good job.
Yeah, you're not wearing a cap.
Nope.
Bryan Power, everyone, exclusive handicapper at WagerTalk.com. Bryan, we got a big game tonight in Memphis and LA. In LA, Memphis, LA, you've got a bet on the total. Tell us what it is.
Yeah, let's talk about this, guys. Game 1 of the series saw the Lakers win 128-112 as a 5-point underdog. LA shoots 53% overall in that game, including 43%, 16-37 from three. But if you look through, that was the anomaly game in the series, at least from a scoring standpoint. 3 of the last 4 games have stayed under, the lone exception being game 4. What happened there? Went to overtime, and it still made it over the total by just 4 points. Memphis in the series, guys, averaging only 108.6 points per game on 42.2% shooting. We know about their struggles on the road. People have come on all week and talked about that, how this is a different team away from home than they are in Memphis. Even after the win in Game 5, which was at home, where they scored 61 points in the first half, the Grizzlies did, I don't see them scoring a ton in tonight's do-or-die Game 6, guys. I really don't. Now, the Lakers, since Game 1, they have shot very poorly from three-point range, specifically LeBron James. As a team, 26% in Game 2, 25% in Game 3, 27% in Game 4, 25% in Game 5. Is there room for improvement? Certainly, but for the season, LA only 34% for 3, so I don't think the ceiling is that high. Just to put some numbers behind what I said earlier, LeBron, last 4 games, 3 for 28 from behind the arc. Plus, you got Memphis, guys, top 10 defensive team in the league this year with the Lakers. The 116 points they allowed last game, a playoff worst. Going back to the play-in game versus Minnesota, this is pretty intriguing to me. They've played 3 home games this postseason. They have allowed 98, 101, and 104 in regulation. Remember, 2 of those went to OT. I am on the under here in this one. Number this morning, it ticked down as low as 218.5, Teddy. I'm seeing it's up to kind of 220 again. I like it a little bit better even now with that line move.
So the one over in this series, I had an over bet in that game, and the overtime got me there. I was very, very thankful because it certainly wasn't getting there without. And I wouldn't argue anyway. I mean, I really wouldn't argue out of taking the under tonight. It makes sense. Here's my question. This series has been a lot of bricklaying. Okay, neither team has shot well. You talked about some of the really ugly shooting percentages from LeBron, from the Lakers from three-point range, from the Grizzlies overall. Isn't there going to be a decent shooting game in this series? And hasn't this total been bet down enough now that maybe you can take a shot with the over?
Well, certainly I've come on the program before, Teddy, and kind of used that theory, right? Where I'm like, all right, it's time for regression. But look at what we've seen so far in the playoffs, like the Knicks-Cavs series. Odds makers kept dropping that total lower and lower, and the teams still couldn't go over. Now, obviously, those are two different teams and a different series, but let's go back to the season-long data. The Lakers are not a great three-point shooting team for the year. It's not just this series where they're struggling. And the Grizzlies on the road are just a different team that they are at home. Even if we see a little bit better shooting, I'm confident we don't make it over that number of 220 tonight.
Bryan Power, outstanding. Let's talk Rays and White Sox. 21-5 Rays against, man, a White Sox team that really must be in shock that they've started 7-19. Now they're a dog. They're at home. How do we bet this game?
Guys, I've said it before multiple times on the programs here on WagerTalk TV. I'll say it again now. This is not earth-shattering. The Juggernaut Rays are the best team in the MLB by far this season. It is not particularly close. You talked about the 21-5 start, Prez, plus 96 run differential. To put that number in perspective, number 2 team in run differential right now, how about Texas? Plus 54. Texas certainly surprising to be number 2 in run differential, but a huge gap between 1 and 2 in that category. The Rays have a team OPS of 868. Next highest is the Cubs at 794. And the gap in OPS allowed by the Rays pitching staff versus the field equally as large. This is a dominant 26-game start. Now, they did come into this series with the White Sox guys off back-to-back shutout losses, their worst 2-game stretch of the year. But what did the Rays do yesterday in the series opener here in Chicago? A dominant 14-5 victory. You talk about the White Sox disappointing start, Prez. I've got them rated as one of the worst teams in baseball right now. Their run differential minus 58. That's third worst in all of baseball. We're talking only the A's and Royals are worse. The White Sox have lost 8 in a row and 10 of the last 11. You would actually have to go back to April 15th to find the last day the White Sox did not lose a game, Prez, because the only win in the last 11 for the White Sox was when they split a doubleheader against the Phillies. This is a team that's been outscored 29-5 over the last 3 games and held 3 runs or fewer in 6 of the last 8. 5 of their 7 wins this year have come with either Cease or Clevenger on the mound. It's Giolito tonight. He lost to the Rays in his last start. Oh, by the way, Tampa Bay now 4-0 against these White Sox this season and 14-1 versus teams with a losing record. Eflin beat them last time, Teddy. I think it's going to happen again. The Tampa Bay Rays are a team that you either play or you do not play the game at all right now. Look for another win on Friday from the best team in baseball.
Can't blame Tony La Russa this year for the White Sox woes. Bryan Power says, look at Tampa Bay as road chalk in Chicago. Brian, you have a 5% play going tonight. You've hit 67%, counting every 5% play since what, before Christmas? Tell me what you're doing. Talk about the play and what's going on at WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, it goes all the way back to bowl season, guys. Very proud of that 67% record with all 5% plays. Again, that is all sports. And you talk about Major League Baseball, that's where the 5% play is tonight, guys. I'm 47, 25, and 2 with all MLB going back to last October. It was a great playoff stretch for me. We're up 52.3 units during that time. And we've continued it here in 2023. Over the last 2 weeks, 17-8. All MLB, that is 68%. That Tampa Bay play, by the way, you can read that for free on my page. That's a client play, 4%. But I encourage everyone to go out and get that 5% play right now. It is my only play for sale at WagerTalk.com.
Brilliant. Bryan Power. Now you can leave.
Oh,
Bryan
thanks,
Power,
Prez.
everybody.
Always a pleasure.
Yes. Yeah, Bri, it's a pleasure for us too, dude. Especially when the segment ends. Kidding. I love you, Bri.
Rough.
Teddy, Bri knows I love him. You know how you can tell if I love you? If you're on the show every single week. So I don't know what that implies about people who aren't on the show every week, so I'd rather not make that implication. But if you're on the show every week, you know I love you. Okay, my brother, we got the BS segment coming. Dan, when we getting graphics? When we getting music, man? Dan? Nothing. Okay.
Crickets.
Yeah. Yeah. Dan just passed it on to Joe. Yeah. Okay. Way to go, Dan. So, Teddy, the first question is, it's a tough one to answer. I mean, I'm going to take a stab at it. We are trying to honor all the questions, whether we want to answer them or not. Rick Moore writes, Prez, yesterday you said you don't take bets past minus 160. I actually would love to take bets past minus 160. I don't make bets past minus 160. Please enlighten us to why that is your cutoff point. So, really, a couple of quick things here. First and foremost, I don't have a great answer, Rock. It's Rock Moore who wrote that. I don't have a great answer. Many years ago, I sat down with a really astute gambling friend of mine who was an actuary based out of London, England. And we sat down and we worked on stuff like what is the best parlay to make, true odds parlay, what's closest to true odds, when do you do teasers, when should you make, money line bets versus spread bets, etc. And basically what we found was minus 160. If you're betting above minus 160 on a regular basis, you are going to lose money. However, in an individual basis, betting over minus 160 is a fair thing to do. The problem for me, Teddy, is I'm an old school handicapper. I've been around for a million years. I'm old as shit. And we just never released plays around minus 160 20 years ago. We always were at the mindset, why would someone want to pay $20 for us to tell them that they have a, minus 200% chance to win a game? So that has changed. The young guys are not doing it that way. And I respect that. You made a comment, Teddy, before the show begun. All the people at the top of the leaderboard at WagerTalk Today are releasing plays above minus 160. So I'm wrong. I just can't break old habits. Do you have anything to say to that?
And this is something, so I was absolutely in the same boat as yours. It's hard for me to get to the window. With a personal bet, it's hard for me to tell my clients, bet this at minus $2. Okay. Yeah. And yet, who was on yesterday that was talking about playing the Angels on the money line over the A's, whoever it was. And I'm like, why not just lay the $3 and play with the A's or play against the A's every day? And obviously the run line didn't cash, and betting against the A's every day did cash. One of the things we have to do as handicappers is figure out what's working and what isn't working, what used to work and what doesn't work this year. And one of the perceived notions that I had of don't lay chalk. Since COVID, I've been laying more, and it's served me well. This baseball season, I'm doing a lot better with my favorites than I am with my underdogs. So I don't have that minus 160 cutoff point anymore. I used to, or in that range. It wasn't always minus, exactly minus 160, but you just tap the brakes. I'm more willing to lay that juice today than I was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago, for sure.
I agree. And me too, Teddy. My cutoff used to be minus 140. So I am trying to adapt, don't want to get left behind by all the youngins. Real quick final question from Frank Raposo, which we did delve into a little earlier on in the show, and that is, when do you make futures bets for a team to win it all versus making the 4 individual bets on them winning each series? Frank, I'll just bottom line this. I don't think there is ever a time to make that a future bet will give you more money than betting the individual series and rolling that money over. No. I don't think there's ever a time.
Yeah, when you're talking about making future bets to win the Cup or to win the NBA title or to win the Super Bowl, those are the lazy bets, okay? That's only a word I can use to describe it. It's lazy. If you want to, and they're also the braggy bets. Oh, look what I got.
The braggy bets, yeah.
They're braggy bets and lazy bets. If you want to bet futures, these are the futures that I bet. I bet season win totals, over or under. I bet odds to make the playoffs, over a yes or no. I'll bet a series price in an NHL or MLB or NBA playoff series. I'll make those bets. I'm not making multiple series bets. I'll always do it one series at a time. It pays more. There's my 2 cents. Great question. Thanks for sending them in. And please keep those questions coming. Even though Prez won't be here next week, Steve Merrill and I will be here next week. We'll still be answering your strategy questions in the betting strategy BS report right here on WagerTalk Today.
Brilliant freaking segment. That you and I were like, this minus 160 is going to be tricky, and I thought we handled it at 10 out of 10, brother. I will call Steve. Oh, shut up, Teddy. I'll call Steve Merrill after the show. Make sure he goes through the chat, the comments on the videos to pull out questions. Andy Lang joining us, everyone. Andy, do you have anything to add to anything you've heard so far on this show?
The people that is not scared to lay that. I'm actually going to lay minus 180 on a play for you guys here in just a second. So count me in that. And I would also just add a little caveat that a lot of it has to do with the sport. I think in some sports laying that kind of juice can be dangerous. For sports that I do, like Formula One, we hit a minus 160 in qualifying today. In Formula One and UFC, you just kind of get used to it. That's just part of the angle in sports. So I would also.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just there are sports that you just have to accept it and you have to be comfortable with it and know that, like, you have to say, well, I don't need to hit 57% to turn a profit. I have to hit 61% because I know I'm going to be laying more juice, but I feel like I have a better read on those sports. So, yeah, I would say that. And then the other, Teddy, you brought up, I loved your comment about the draft, about teams kind of throwing out smoke screens and everything. Here in Indianapolis, for a week, we were like, I don't know who the Colts are taking at 4, but I know it's not Will Levis because they are trying way too hard to convince everybody that they love Will Levis. And it was so silly. I should have made it a bet. I should have made Richardson a bet. We knew they were going to take him after they tried so hard to convince us about Will Levis. I thought that was a great one. And you guys mentioned Mel Kiper in the production world, the ESPN world. He's a legend. He made $400 for his very first ESPN gig, and now he's worth over $7 million just doing NFL draft. His story about how he started just doing his own thing in the NFL draft is really impressive. If you look it up, it's kind of a fun research if you're into a deep dive.
Yeah, Andy, before we get in, we're going to go straight to the Denver-Phoenix game. It is on Saturday. But before we get into that, I just want to make one quick last comment about this minus 160. Life is interesting. When you speak to guys who are super old bettors, like guys in their 80s that bet for a living, man, they were laying minus 1,200 on Muhammad Ali all the time. They were laying minus 800 on, Sugar Ray. These bets, these huge money line bets, were what everyone did in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. Those were the bets everyone made. Then it changed, and the chalk was brought down, and people focused on the spreads and the minus 110s. Now it is actually reverting back, and we're pulling away from spreads and heading, closer towards money lines and these bigger numbers. So I found that fascinating. Andy, Denver playing Phoenix tomorrow, total of 225, line of minus 2.5. How do we bet this game?
Well, game one of the series, you look at stats, but sometimes you just kind of have a little bit of a gut feeling. And I don't buy this Phoenix Suns, especially on defense. They are running about a tight of a rotation as it gets. I mean, you've got guys like Durant and Booker who are playing well over 40 minutes every game. Their bench players are not getting much done. So I'm going to take a look at the Denver Nuggets over 113.5 on their team total. Phoenix, they gave up 115 and 109 to the Clippers with Kawhi. They gave up 124, 100, and 130 to the Clippers without Kawhi. And I think there's some really good matchups that Denver has. I mean, Jokic matches up good against just about anybody. But the last time he played DeAndre Ayton, he went for a mere 41, 15, and 15. By the way, Jokic is plus 165 to have a triple-double. in case anyone's interested in those kind of lines. I think this Denver team is going to exploit the lack of defense on the perimeter. I don't trust Chris Paul's defense over the course of a game. Devin Booker is working so hard on offense that I think his defense is lacking a little bit. Both teams are in the top 4 of offensive rating in the playoffs. But Phoenix is 12 out of 16 playoff teams for defensive rating. So I think this Denver team matches up really well against Phoenix. I think Phoenix got the break of the break of the year without having to go up against Paul George and Kawhi. I think Durant and Booker, they're asking way too much of them on offense. I think it struggles on defense. So give me the Nuggets over 113.5 as their team total.
Nuggets favored in game 1, dogs in the series. Andy says, look at their team total over 113.5 on Saturday night in Denver. Let's shift our focus to the UFC. Josh Quinlan, Trey Waters. Quinlan, what, minus 180? What are we going to do with this one?
Oh, this is a great situation. You've got a guy in Trey Waters who is coming in to save the day. Josh Quinlan lost his opponent. So Trey Waters comes in as the last second. So here's what happens in UFC. They'll go to some of these guys fighting in other regional scenes or other leagues, and they'll ask them to come in and, be a last second replacement fighter. And what they'll say is I know this is a really tough spot for you, but we'll give you another fight when you have a full camp. Trey Waters is in a tough spot. This guy fought 2 weeks ago and he won by knockout, but he was losing that fight. I mean, he got a flash knockout. But make no mistake, in round 2, he was beat up. His eye was all swollen shut. And he's got a lot of stylistic matchups that Quinlan's going to take advantage of. First, Quinlan's got great leg kicks. Trey Waters sticks that lead leg out all the time. Quinlan's going to damage it really, really good. Waters fights with his hands down at his waist, similar to the way Bobby Green does, except Waters is not that good. And this is the second weight cut that Trey Waters is going to have to make in 2 weeks. This guy's 6'5". He's having to cut weight to make it down. I think this is a Quinlan win. Don't be surprised if this gets stopped, but I'll take Quinlan minus 180 over Trey Waters, who knows he's walking into a really, really tough spot. He's probably going to take the loss, but he gets a paycheck, and he knows he's going to get another UFC fight.
Andy Lang, awesome stuff. One more bet from you, my brother, and it is a prop bet in the NHL. Tell us what's going on.
Minus 160. Again, we're going to go with Aaron Ekblad. Well, we talked about laying minus 160. I'm going to play him to not have a point. Why? He doesn't have a point this series. This is cashed every single game. So when you talk about laying minus 160, well, if it's undefeated, the juice really doesn't matter. Prez, you know this. Ekblad got hurt in game 3, went out of the game. He did not play the next game. And then he came back. He played in game 5, 0 shots on goal. That means the last 2 games that Ekblad has played in, he has no shots on goal. Really hard to score a point if you're not getting any shots on goal. The forwards are doing all the damage for Florida. I don't know if Florida gets very many goals in this game, but the points are probably not going to come from Ekblad, who's probably still nursing that injury. It hasn't hit yet. He still doesn't have a point in this series. Take him again to not have a point.
There you go, Andy Lang,
scoreless.
everyone. Oh, we're doing it together, Teddy.
Tonight. Apparently. Let's see if we can close them out together. Andy, what do you have to promote over at WagerTalk.com?
We're running great, 15-5 across all sports. We cashed some Formula One qualifying this morning. So we have a NBA 4% play that is up tonight. We've attached all of our plays tonight, so you have a 4% lacrosse that goes with that. We've hit our last 3 NBA plays, so we're looking forward to continue that streak in NBA. 3-day pass is a good purchase because we got a 4% play tomorrow in UFC. Formula One looks great. NASCAR looks great. Our MLB, NBA, and NHL is running good as well. So it's a great time to jump on board, get a 3-day pass. Let's have a great weekend.
Andy Lang, what a show. Teddy covers, man. I will not be around next week, everybody. Steve Merrill will be taking over for me. I will be back on Friday. I know you're all happy, Teddy, blah, 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 blah. Daniel's son, we got 101 likes. Cue it up. All right, it's time for your daily presidential address, and I am he, Lawrence Presman. I just want to let everybody know we got a bunch of NHL plays I'm going to give out on this video. Teddy's going to come in as well with a play. I had a shit night last night, 1-4 for my clients. I have to bounce back, and I got a massive day planned for everybody. I have one NBA play up, and that was my one win last night in NBA, and my NBA has been unfreaking believable, up 60 units on the season on a 4-1 run, 70% my last 15 NBA plays, really seeing the NBA well. I got one of those tonight. I got three NHL plays and 3 baseball plays, so a 7-pack up for you guys. Okay, bets for tonight. I like the Florida Panthers, plus 155. There's a shit ton of value here, guys. I understand how good Boston is, etc., etc. The only thing is, Florida has really kind of outplayed them almost every single game. Yeah, it's 3-2. They didn't get the results they were looking for, but there's no reason Florida coming home cannot win this game outright. Plus 155 for the Florida Panthers. I also like the over in the Seattle-Colorado game. Cale Makar is coming back. He is a game-changing forward, a defenseman. He'll create a lot more space. I like the over in that game, and I like the Minnesota Wild to tie this series up at 3-3 and send it back to Dallas. Teddy, what do you got for us?
Let's go in MLB for tonight. Take a look at the Houston Astros. Minus 145, minus 150. I bet them earlier this morning at a cheaper price than that. The money's coming for Houston for good reason. Ride the hot. Astros have a slow start, playing good baseball right now against winning teams. We trust Valdez this evening. Lay it or don't play it with the Astros.
There you go. Take us home, brother.
That's going to wrap it for the week here at WagerTalk Today. We'll do it again next week. Every weekday, 9 a.m. here on the left coast, noon for you back east. Between now and Monday's show, enjoy the games, have a great weekend, and best of luck with all your wagers.
A 30-day all-access pass is priced at $2.99, but for limited time, we have discounted that price to $2.39, dropping the daily cost to $8.30 per day. Basically, we took $9 Monday, dropped the price, and we're giving you the option to lock the discount for a full 30 days. Even better, for a limited time, we are adding 7 days free. That's a $99 value to kick in once your 30 days expire. This brings your new daily cost to $6.40 per day. So outside of the discount on 30-day all access, we are tossing in a free 7-day all access and $99 value for a combined savings of $159. So to recap, for the next 37 days, you'll get all plays across all sports from your favorite WagerTalk or Sports Memo handicapper played during your access, including 5% best bets for around $6.45 per day. Act fast as the special offer expires at midnight on May 1st.